I thank you very much for tuning into That Will Nevr Work podcast. So our guest today, he spent 15 years building one of the most decorated corporate careers in consumer retail, from international consulting at Accenture to vice president of sales at Carter's, managing over $300 million in annual revenue, and then made the decision most high-performing executives never find the courage to make. He bet on a niche nobody was owning and built the number one non-food franchise consulting practice in the country. So today, as founder and CEO of FranBridge Consulting, a two-time Inc. 5000 company, he has connected thousands of entrepreneurs with over 600 high-growth franchise opportunities, operating as the living proof that the fastest path to scale is almost never wider, it is almost always more focused, maybe? Let's talk about it right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Nevr Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
So, as you well know, I don't read the lengthy bio. I think my introduction was enough, but I will give points from the bio. Focused, deliberate, results obsessed, strategic, connector, genuine, wealth building, bold, and quietly brilliant. I thank you very much for coming onto the show and listening today. I want y'all to give a warm welcome to Jon Ostenson. Thank you very much for coming onto the show, Jon.
Hey, thanks for having me. With an opening like that, I'll come back anytime.
That's good. That's good. So Jon, in the intro, I say, hey, you know what? You've been doing this for the last 15 years in the corporate world. So what did that transition from you doing that to where you are now? What in the world, what did that cost you in that transition?
Yeah. Like so many out there, I had that desire to become a business owner. Didn't know what it looked like, didn't know how to connect the dots, but, was working incredibly hard, helping others build their empires, and work for some public companies. And so kind of helping the shareholders, I guess, at the end of the day. But, I could have done that forever, but we only live once, right? I wanted to bet on myself and take that risk. And to me, working for someone else was more risky than working for myself in some ways. But no, it definitely comes at a cost, right? I mean, I always say if business ownership's easy, everyone would be doing it. Right. You have to make tough calls. And I had a wife and 2.5 young kids at the time. And, fortunately, had a great support system. She was very supportive, and, we'd been able to save up some. So we had a little bit of a runway. But no, when I went from, large corporate executive role to serving as president of ShelfGenie franchise system, where I got to support franchisees all across North America. That's kind of my first step into franchising. It took a massive pay cut. I mean, more than 75% actually to be exact. So, but when you're working for yourself, you get tax benefits, you're building an asset, all that. So, and then it's continued to evolve. So the past decade or so, I've been in business for myself and wouldn't have it any other way. Can never work for anybody again.
So in that space, did you feel free? Did you feel a little more stressed? Like, what did you really gain in that? Because, again, this podcast, we're talking to people who are transitioning from that 9-to-5 to entrepreneurship, and they may not always know what the costs really are. So did it free you a little bit, or did you kind of like, I don't know about this?
No, you experience every emotion and different times of the same day, right? So definitely stress, and things are hard, especially early on, but they were also hard in the corporate world. I was stressed there. We had large business. We were managing some large accounts, and, for me, it was a lot of control and freedom. It truly felt like freedom. I was able to call my own shots. Now, not everyone is self-motivated. Fortunately for me, I can. I joked I'm the hardest boss I've ever had. I'll work myself hard. But, for me, it was all about finding the shortcuts, right? It was, hey, how do I free up more time? I mean, my family and I take multiple international trips every year, and I coach their teams. And I'm living life on my terms. I pinch myself every day. But it's been a lot of hard work, right? There are mornings that I've been in the office at 6 a.m. because I had to get something to a client, before they got in their office or what have you. But wouldn't have it any other way.
So in that, in that transition, what do you think most top earning individuals kind of get wrong when they make that leap? Because a lot of times, again, we hear these type of things, and John, you know what? You inspired me, John, but I might got this wrong. So what do you think people get wrong in that?
Yeah, these are the conversations I have multiple times every day. So I've got this front row seat into people that are considering business ownership, considering entrepreneurship. And what I find is oftentimes, there's fear holding them back, either their fear or their spouse's fear, right? And everyone knows someone that didn't succeed, when they went out on their own. But then you also know a lot of guys and gals that have, right? And so I think, I'm in my mid 40s, and I believe the seasonal life, kind of mid 30s, mid 50s, people are looking around saying, hey, how's this going to play out?
Right.
Should I make a move? But most people, to your question, don't have that idea. They don't know exactly what they want to jump into. And that's where we come in to help them identify opportunities that I guarantee you were never on their bingo card when they heard the word franchise.
So again, I told you in the green room, don't be surprised if I don't pull anything out. So I did my research, and I heard an interview you were on, and you offered a story about a couple who invested in trampoline franchises.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because unfortunately, people don't look at it as, a place of being fun, as a place that, hey, you know what, I need to invest in this. I need to take this further. So what was that transition like, even for that couple, to say, you know what, we're going to have fun. We're 50 years old. We're going to jump on these trampolines all day. So what was that like?
In that case, this was really unique. They were McDonald's franchisees previously, had a bunch of locations, had a big exit, and then, the trampoline parks are pretty expensive to set up. But you can make some really, really good money in those, about $700,000 or $800,000 to the bottom line per location is the model there. But no, they fell in love with the business, and they wanted to bring their kids in on the business. And that's something that we see oftentimes. I mean, most franchises that our clients are getting into, all in investment, maybe 100 or 200,000. Oftentimes they'll finance those like through an SBA loan. So it's a much more doable thing for people. But oftentimes they want to bring their kids in. They want to build a legacy. They want to impact their community. They want to have that freedom, like we talked about, to live life on their terms. And that's where franchising helps them connect the dots, both on the idea, but then the execution, where you've got a playbook, you've got a mastermind of other owners supporting each other. You've got a franchisor coaching you from the sidelines. It just gives you a much more calculated, jump off point than just going at it all by yourself.
So I brought that up because of that idea. Because if I am already in corporate America and I got them golden handcuffs, right? I don't know how to let go. And now I want to start my own business, but now you're talking about, hey, you know what, Maurice, maybe think about franchising, because a lot of times when we want to make that change, some people don't know how to operate from a blank piece of paper, right? I don't know where I want to do. I don't know where I want to go. And so why should someone even consider the franchise route before we get into your specific niche in that?
Yeah, it gives you a running start. And I'll start by saying not every franchise is created equal, right? Just like any industry, you're going to have great players and you're going to have some that are not as strong, don't provide as good support. That's where we come in, obviously, to help. But it just allows you to start on third base. I mean, you step in day one, you've got a technology stack that's already been set up. You've got marketing data that's been optimized in other markets. You've got a group of other franchisees living the same thing day in, day out, exchanging best practices with each other. You've got a franchisor on the sideline coaching you, supporting you. You've got the playbook to go execute. So you're really in business for yourself, but not by yourself, right? It's almost a hybrid, if you will, or training wheels, I like to say. And we have a lot of clients that will build very large businesses within franchising. They'll come back and buy additional locations. They'll expand to other franchise brands that may complement or diversify from their current holdings. I call it franchise stacking when they do that. So it creates this model that is very scalable over time. My client, Nathan, he's the largest franchisee of 2 million truck and moving service. Started with one location, now operates in 12 markets. He's acquired other franchisees when they were looking to sell over time, and does 40, 50 million a year in revenue. And so he's a little further along than some, but it's a good example of what it can be.
Well, so in that, John, I'm not starting off with a blank slate, because a lot of times, like I just stated, some of us don't deal with that very well. I have some clients that are struggling and can't figure it out. Like you said, the playbook, I have no one else to talk to and lean on and all that type of stuff. So it sounds like it could be a great idea for someone who maybe just venturing out just a little, just to have that additional help through this process.
Yeah, I mean, at the very beginning, the product market fit's been established, right? If it's working great in Detroit and Chicago and Philadelphia, where you are, then here in Atlanta, it's probably going to work too, right? It makes some assumptions around it. So no, I think that you go in eyes wide open. You get to do a lot more due diligence up front. What I like, Maurice, is you're stepping into, a system that's been established, but you're still able to put your thumbprints on, that team. That's your culture, right? That's one of the issues I have with people that are out there looking to buy an existing business. And there are a lot of them, right? Entrepreneurship through acquisition. I just wrote an article in Forbes a couple of weeks ago on entrepreneurship through acquisition versus franchising. Oftentimes people don't realize with the existing business, they're paying a multiple, right? Oftentimes they're overpaying and they're assuming everything's going to continue. But when you inherit someone else's team and culture, I mean, you may lose key employees as you make changes. And so that's why this is still your business. You're the business owner. It's just, you've got a system that has been proven that you're running.
So in that, again, I did my research and I listened to how you talked about, sometimes people, when they go into this idea of franchising, they might invest in something that it was nowhere near on their radar. And so for you, just for you going from corporate America to now going into a space that was not really on your radar necessarily, especially in a space where it's non-food related or focused, for yourself, what was that like? Because that could be a little scary as well, because that's something that you don't always hear about.
Yeah, I've got nothing against the food guys. We need them. We support them. But, it's a big investment, a lot of operating hours, a lot of hourly employees, lower margins oftentimes due to food waste. Consumer whims change, right? And so there are other industries that I like and a lot of our clients like outside of food that I think are just a better business opportunity. And so, I always thought Subway, McDonald's, just like everyone did when they heard the F word, franchise. But it's really once I got into it and my first, I've invested in a bunch of different franchises, everything from asphalt paving and line striping, think parking lots, to temporary containment walls, to, I've got one franchise that provides 3D printed inserts, for orthotics. But no, we see so much interest out there, and oftentimes it's in non-sexy industries. I joke that non-sexy is the new sexy when it comes to business ownership. It's industries that are understandable, cash flowing, pool cleaning, dumpsters, artificial turf, cabinets, to things like, senior care. Anything related to seniors is huge right now, right? Anything related to kids, like teen driving school. Let's say 36 states require kids to go through a teen driving school, but most states don't have a good setup for that. Certainly pet grooming, anything related to pets, B2B services, and that can be a wide range from consulting type services to industrial hoses to insurance adjusting. And so I love, Maurice, kind of to your question, to bring it home, I love exposing people to what we see as the top available opportunities. They're looking to expand in their markets. We'll look at maybe a dozen or so different businesses, and 90% of the time, I would guess, they end up going with something that they never would have thought of on their own.
So I'm gonna touch on two ideas. You said something about pools and dog grooming, right? And sometimes we think of those type of industries, that's for high school kids, right? Middle school kids. But we don't think of it as a true business model moving forward. And so how do we change our mindset to something that is so simple at its core?
When you're going out to buy a white Ford Bronco, let's say, all of a sudden you start noticing all the white Ford Broncos on the street.
Right.
It's the same thing when you start looking into business ownership and getting really serious about it and looking at real opportunities. You start to notice around you, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a franchise. Oh, that's an opportunity to bring a white collar approach to a blue collar industry. Let's say, now I love pool cleaning. I love dog grooming. I mean, those are both recurring revenue businesses, right?
Right.
People are always going to spend on what they care about. We're talking about your great aunt before we got on the show here. Yeah. They'll spend on their aging parents. They'll spend on their health. They'll spend on their kids, their pets, no matter what's going on in the economy, right? I mean, there's areas they may pull back on, but we like those things that should stand the test of time, that AI can only enhance but not replace, at least as far as we can tell, right?
Right.
And so that's what we're hearing. A couple of years ago is, hey, we want things that are COVID resistant. Now we want businesses that are AI resistant.
Right. Well, I think some of that, just like with social media, we're losing the human touch, right? That human interaction to some degree. And I think those type of things such as dog grooming, that's someone that you care about. I mean, that's a entity, a spirit, whatever, however you view your pet, family member, whatever it is, you know, you want to give them the best care like you would want to do yourself. And sometimes you need that personal touch and talk to that individual. Hey, you know what? I only want 2 inches off of their long hair, or you know, whatever it is. You know, I want to keep the poof on their tail, something like that. And I think those type of things that we kind of miss dealing with social media and or AI is that real personal feel, that love, or that emotion in these moments.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree. And franchising, it's a people business, right? And people ask me, what makes a successful franchisee? It's one, you've got to, you've got to be a hard worker, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to be entirely turnkey. You still have to put work in. Secondly, you've got to be good with people, to your point. I mean, that's just business 101. And then the third thing that's unique about franchising is your humility and willingness to follow a system.
And so, well, as you were speaking earlier, when we talk about the food industry, you hear about McDonald's University, right? That idea. So in these other places, right, do they have those type of trainings and schooling in that as well? Because a lot of times we joke about the McDonald's idea, but that sounds like you have a real community around you. Do these other franchises offer something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and everyone's created different, but and that's again where we come in to help you identify the right ones. But no, for the most part, they all provide a comprehensive training program. I mean, they're incentivized. The franchisor is going to do better if you do better, right? So, they want to set you up for success and kind of coach you and take you to that next level.
So as we're going through this process, I just want to give the listeners an idea, right? So if I come to you, Jon, and say, you know what, Jon, I've been doing this business consulting. That's where I am right now, but I want to expand just a little bit, but I want something off the beaten path, right? So I was really thinking about UFO hunting, right? I'm just using that, somehow. So Jon, is there a real market? Just roll with me for a second, right? But is that a type of market like, hey, you know what, Jon, I want to go off the beaten path. Is that something that you can really help someone else with through that process?
Yeah. I would say, hey, if I were in your shoes, based on what you've shared with me, here are several opportunities that I think could be a really interesting fit for you. In that case, with the consulting background, I mean, we do have consulting related franchises. There's one that's straight up business coaching. There's another one that's consulting around cost mitigation and reduction for small, medium-sized companies. We could go into public adjusting for, insurance. We could get into, freight brokerage type work where you're being consultative, working with your small company clients. We just placed some clients in Minneapolis in a business that's consultative in the senior care space. They get to know all the senior care facilities in town and then essentially represent them. So, when you're putting your aging parent in a home, it's probably the first time you've ever gone down that path. Wouldn't you love to have an expert guide that takes you through that process and helps get to know you and then says, hey, here are the 2 or 3 that I would consider, and here are the pros and cons of each one. So again, there's so many niches to your earlier point that you don't think about until you get into it. And you're like, gosh, I think I could really enjoy doing that. I think our community needs it. And I love the idea of helping others in the process.
So as you were moving from your corporate job, right? What was the one thing that you learned in that space that really helped you in your transition? That as you also see that you are teaching others as you're moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's attracting talent, right? End of the day, I mean, there are things that you can do, but your business is never going to be as big as you want it to be unless you're willing to bring others in on it. So I think attracting talent, incentivizing them, retaining them, setting them up for success. Definitely a skill set that oftentimes you learn in those bigger companies, and then you can kind of let it play out on your own.
So what's the one thing that corporate America didn't tell you or teach you when you moved into your own space?
Yeah, again, fortunately, I'm self-motivated, so I'm able to put together goals and plans for myself. And, but I think for a lot of others, if they don't have someone breathing down their back, not everyone's cut out for business ownership.
Right.
I'll make that point. I believe most people have it in them to become business owners, at least with some support. But there are some that aren't willing to follow a system. They're not hard workers. They're not good with people. Maybe they shouldn't be a business owner.
So for those individuals that are listening right now, Jon, and you know what, they're thinking about this corporate America space is just not really for me. And understanding that because we're in a global sense, that idea of corporate America is spreading globally as well, right? And so it's not for me, and it's not giving me what I really am looking for. Jon, I need to talk to you and find out how or what I need to do moving forward. Where can he find your information and talk to you about that?
Yeah, and first off, it's entirely free to work with us. We get a referral fee on the back end from the companies. None of that's passed on to you. So it's just like I'm a real estate agent if you were going to buy a house. And so I always like to get that out of the way. No cost at all to you. But come out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com, FRAN bridgeconsulting.com. Share your email address. You'll then have access to download our book. I wrote a book a couple years ago, 90 pages, called Non-Food Franchising. We cover the gamut in here. It'll really help you connect the dots. We've got great feedback, sold thousands of copies, and given away even more, which I love to do. But yeah, there's multiple formats you'll be able to download it from. If you'd like to take the next step, would be happy to book a call. My assistant will reach out to you and as a follow-up after she gets your email address. Certainly, if you'd rather purchase the book on Amazon, all the proceeds go to Hope International, which is a great nonprofit that we support.
So, Jon, free? You gonna do this for free? Because sometimes that's a foreign word for some of us. We expect there's a cost for everything. So, what even encouraged you to say, you know what, I'm gonna do this for this nominal, investment? Yeah,
if I place a client, I'll get a referral fee from that company on the back end, but for them, it's a sales and marketing cost. Nothing gets passed on to my client. So again, just like a real estate model, if you were going to shop for a home, you wouldn't pay your real estate agent anything, but instead when the transaction closes, they get, compensated on the back end from the seller. So no, it's a great model, entirely no obligation, and allows people to dip their toe in the water, and it allows us to kind of hit the ground running.
So Jon, I again, real quick, are you franchised? It sounds like you should be franchised yourself.
I've had a lot of people approach me about that in the past. I could. There are a lot of things I could do, but right. Good thing going, so why change?
Cool, but I appreciate you coming on the show. But I got to ask you the question before we go, bro. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
3 doors, and I would start out moving towards either door A or B, and then I'd probably go with option C at the very end. And that's just been the story of my career in life. It's, I do a little analysis and I start moving in one direction, and then the last minute, God brings out option C out of left field, and I say, hey, actually, that makes a lot more sense. I've got clarity now, and it's served me well, and it just never ceases to amaze me. That's the way that it's worked for me career-wise, personally. So many case studies.
So it's funny that you bring up the faith piece, because a lot of us, we're kind of lost with that to some degree. We feel like we have to do it on our own, and that the Almighty is not giving us the opportunities to do that. So I appreciate you offering that quick little tidbit of that, Jon.
Yeah. No, I have to remind myself every day I'm not in control, because I definitely try to take the reins. It's probably more than I should.
Cool. But Jon, I thank you very much, and I appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, and thank you all very much for listening to That Will Nevr Work podcast. Of course, I have to leave you with a challenge. So today, I want you to learn one boring business. I want you this week take 30 minutes and research one business category you've never considered before: a home services franchise, a senior care company, a property services operation. Look at the unit economics. Look at the market demand, look at the recession resilience, and then ask yourself honestly, I need to call Jon. But was I dismissing the best? Was I dismissing this because of the math, or was I dismissing this because it didn't sound exciting enough? The businesses that most people overlook are frequently the ones that build the most consistent wealth. Give one of them 30 minutes of serious attention and see what changes. Also, call Jon. I thank you very much for listening today, and I'll talk to you a little bit later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?